Welcome everyone, I'm Archit Tashadri. Thanks for watching WION. World is One News. Let's take a look at the top stories making headlines. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi tears into Pakistan and uses the G20 summit to demand unity against terrorism. An all-party delegation visits Jammu and Kashmir. India's Home Minister Rajnath Singh calls Kashmir an integral part of India. Urjit Patel takes over as the new RBI governor and replaces Raghuram Rajan. And Singapore confirms 27 more cases of Zika, bringing the total now to 242. Welcome everyone. Those stories in just a moment, but we first start in India, where an all-party delegation visited the town of Jammu and Kashmir, all part of a two-day visit. India's Union Home Minister Rajnath Singh addressed a press conference there at the end of the visit, saying the state is an integral part of the country. Here's the story.
An all-party delegation of nearly 30 Indian parliamentarians visited Kashmir amid the ongoing civil unrest that has so far claimed more than 70 lives and left thousands injured. Led by Indian Home Minister Rajnath Singh, the delegation met with mainstream political parties and other groups to discuss the ongoing crisis in the valley. Leaders from opposition like National Conference's Omar Abdullah and Congress's G.A. Mir, among others, met with the delegation at Sher-e Kashmir International Conference Centre here on Sunday. The state political parties said the dialogue is the only way forward to address not just the ongoing unrest but the long-standing issue of Kashmir.
You need to open channels of communication to address the political nature of the problem. You cannot either tire this agitation out and you cannot crush it. You cannot buy out a solution to it. You will have to address it politically.
Some members of the delegation, including leaders from the left, Sitaram Yechuri and D. Raja, and other lawmakers like Asaduddin Owaisi and Sharad Yadav, went to meet with the Hurriyat leaders. The members, however, failed to engage the separatists. Yechuri, Raja and Yadav were not allowed to enter the premises of senior separatist Saeed Ali Shah Gilani.
मैं इसे भी क्लैरिफाई कर देना चाहता हूं कि कल इस ऑल पार्टी डेलीगेशन के कुछ मेंबर्स हुर्रियत के नेताओं से भी मिलने के लिए गए थे, जो मुझे जानकारी प्राप्त हुई। न हम लोगों ने हाँ कहा था न ना कहा था।
The Home Minister said these members had gone to meet Gilani, Yasin Malik and Mirwais Umar Farooq in their personal capacities. Mr. Rajnath added that the separatists lacked Kashmiri ethos and humanity since they denied to get involved in talks aimed to bring normalcy and peace to the strife-torn region.
वहां से लौटने के बाद डेलीगेशन के उन मित्रों ने जो जानकारी दी, कम से कम इतना तो कहा जा सकता है कि सचमुच यह कश्मीरियत तो नहीं है और इसे इंसानियत भी नहीं माना जा सकता, इंसानियत भी नहीं है। और कोई बातचीत करने के लिए गया है, उन्होंने बातचीत नहीं की, तो कम से कम जमहूरियत में भी यकीन नहीं है।
Clashes erupted in the northern Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir after the militant commander Burhan Wani was killed on 8th of July. Since then, widespread protests and curfew and shutdown has disrupted normal life in the region. Hundreds have been critically injured in their eyes due to pellet guns used by police and security forces to quell the protests. During his third visit to the state since the protests erupted here, the Home Minister pointed out that an alternative to pellet guns, that is chili-filled Pawa smoke shells, will be used from now onwards.
जब मैं 24-25 जुलाई को यहाँ पर आया था, तो उस समय लोगों ने पेलेट गन को लेकर शिकायत की थी और मैंने कहा था कि मैं एक एक्सपर्ट कमेटी बना रहा हूं जो 2 महीने में अपनी रिपोर्ट दे देगी और नॉन लेथल वेपन्स के क्या दूसरे अल्टरनेटिव्स हो सकते हैं, उस संबंध में वो सुझाव देगी। 2 महीने पूरे नहीं हुए कि बीच में ही उस कमेटी ने अपना सुझाव दे दिया है। और उस नॉन लेथल वेपन का अल्टरनेटिव पावा सेल्स का सुझाव आया है। मैं समझता हूं उससे किसी की मौत नहीं होगी।
At this stage, all the stakeholders, especially the mainstream political parties, are calling for an end to the cycle of violence which began in Kashmir after the killing of militant commander Burhan Wani. But the biggest challenge right now is to end the deadlock between separatists and mainstream parties to initiate talks, something which all the stakeholders have acknowledged. But how that will happen remains to be seen. Anis Zargar for WION.
Well, terrorism took center stage at the 11th G20 summit in China on Monday. From U.S. President Barack Obama to Indian President Narendra Modi, world leaders called for a concrete fight against terrorism using the platform there to put pressure on Pakistan. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched a veiled attack on the neighboring Indian state. Modi says, without taking any names, that terrorism was being spread by a single South Asian country. Outgoing Reserve Bank of India Governor Raghuram Rajan completed his tenure on Sunday. His replacement, Urjit Patel, who was previously deputy governor in charge of monetary policy, is likely to take charge on Tuesday. The government is expected to announce Patel's successor soon. Rajan stepped down after receiving intense criticism from the ruling party's leaders for keeping interest rates high and over allegations of making political statements. Moving on now to Pakistan's tax authority. They've issued notices to at least 450 people, including the PM, Nawaz Sharif, and his family. Now, their names appeared in the Panama Papers leak for owning offshore companies. Here's the story.
About 640 Pakistanis have been named in the data leaked under the Panama Papers investigation as beneficiaries of offshore holdings. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's family members, including his 2 sons and a daughter, have been named in the leaks. According to documents available on the website of International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, Nawaz Sharif's children Maryam, Hassan and Hussain are mentioned as having offshore companies which operate their properties abroad. Meanwhile, unrest among the people is increasing about the alleged corruption. Imran Khan organized a rally in Lahore to protest alleged corruption by Sharif and failure of the state bodies to proceed against his family after Panama leaks. Imran Khan's Tehreek-e-Insaf, PTI, has launched a countrywide campaign against the government over corruption and delay in taking action against those who have been named in the Panama Papers. The government has been accused of resorting to delaying tactics vis-a-vis the opposition party's demands on the controversy. On the other hand, Sharif's supporters blame Khan for targeting Sharif for political gains, even though his name is not mentioned in the Panama Papers.
With the FBI finally waking up and sending out notices to Prime Minister's family, the coming weeks will be crucial for his office, especially given the fact that his political rival Imran Khan is leading a countrywide campaign asking for his resignation over these corruption allegations. This is Taha Siddiqui reporting for WION.
Well, in a move which will test the NDA government's new policy on Balochistan, prominent Baloch leader Brahmadag Khan Bukti is seeking an Indian government-issued ID. The leader of the Baloch Republican Party said Pakistan was trying to create international pressure by issuing a red notice against him. He's also sought India's intervention to ensure safety for himself and his companions. Bukti's desire to seek an official Indian ID and travel documents stem from the fact that at present he runs his party from Switzerland without any official authorization from the Swiss government. He also claims that the Swiss government that declined his application for an official ID back in January of this year, and that is creating hurdles in his work thanks to all the pressure from Pakistan. Well, moving on now to other parts of Asia, the result of Hong Kong's elections are out, with several pro-democracy candidates making victories. This was the first election in the former British territory since the 2014 Umbrella Revolution. Initial trends suggest that the pro-democracy opposition might retain one-third veto bloc in the 70-seat Legislative Council. Earlier, the voter turnout was the highest since the territory was handed over to China back in 1997. Some 58% of Hong Kong's nearly 4 million registered voters turned out. That is a significant rise from the 45% back in 2008. The main parties competing are divided over the territory's relationship with Beijing. In the wake of the 2014 protests, Hong Kong's pro-democracy opposition is hoping to maintain a one-third veto bloc against their pro-Beijing rivals. Moving on now to the Philippines, the country has expressed grave concerns and demanded an explanation from China's ambassador after an increasing number of Chinese boats were spotted near the disputed Scarborough Shoal in the South China Sea. A Philippines Air Force plane flew over the rocky outcrop and spotted more boats than usual in flotilla that China has maintained since seizing the shoal after a tense standoff in 2012. China's embassy in Manila could not be reached for comment. Moving on now to Myanmar, the state councillor Aung San Suu Kyi met with former UN Chief Kofi Annan to launch the Advisory Commission on Rakhine State. The initiative comes in hope to bring peace and development following violence between Buddhists and the minority Rohingya Muslims. The meeting is the first of its kind for the newly formed Advisory Commission.
We will begin. What we are hoping for is a fair assessment of the situation as it stands today, and for us to be able to get a clear idea of the roots of these problems.
Well, even as world leaders met at the G20 summit in China, North Korea fired 3 ballistic missiles in the sea off its coast on Monday. The missiles were fired from the region south of Pyongyang. They traveled about 1,000 kilometers and hit Japan's air defense identification zone. The tests were the latest in a series of launches by North Korea this year. The tests are in violation of the UN Security Council's resolutions. Both Japan and South Korea have expressed concerns.
これは我が国の安全保障に対してですね、保障上の重大な脅威でありますし、また類似の安保理決議にも違反するもので断じて許されませんし、深い懸念を表したいと思います。
오늘 북한의 탄도미사일 발사는 유엔 안보리 결의의 노골적인 위반이자 북한의 핵 미사일 개발이 한반도뿐 아니라 주변국 및 국제사회에 대한 실질적인 위협임을 보여주는 엄중한 도발 행위로서 정부는 이를 강력히 규탄한다.
Well, now on to Singapore. An update on the status of the Zika virus. 27 more cases of the locally transmitted disease have been confirmed in the country. Now, this brings the total to 242. 25 of the new cases were linked to the initial outbreak, while 1 was linked to a potentially new cluster. Zika causes birth defects for pregnant women. It started in Brazil, where more than 1,800 cases have been reported of the virus.